Turn the dial, turn it loud. Miami's pride, make us proud. CanesWear crew, you hear the crowd. Hurricanes ain't backing down. Every play, every score. Raising bets and raising roar. Rocking orange, green galore. All for one and one for four. We got FTSN, taking names, win it again. Podcast fam, till the end. Tune in, now let's begin.
Yo, Cane fans, all of our viewers, listeners tuned in. This is the CanesWear Daily Podcast at FTSN. I am your host, Brad Tejeda, and man, let me tell you what, as y'all know, Cane fans, it is Friday, September 20th, 2024, and we are gearing up for another big-time game. Our Miami Hurricanes will be taking on the South Florida Bulls, and as y'all know, there's been a little bit of hype around this game, but as we prepare for this Miami Hurricane football, yet again, what to be a challenge, we will find out this weekend. But we'll break down a little bit of this football game, talk a little bit of recruiting with y'all. But before we get started, I need to make sure y'all hit that like button, hit subscribe, tune in, make sure not only at this show, but we also got a CanesWear Live podcast we do every Tuesday at 8 Eastern right here on FTSN. So make sure you check that out, man. But like I said before, Miami, South Florida, head-to-head. We knocked down one Florida team. We got another one in South Florida, right? And gearing up for this game tomorrow night, which I will be at. I hope to see a lot of other fans there as well. If you are already in the car listening to this, I hope y'all have a safe drive to Tampa. It's going to be a nice, hopefully good weather day and turnout. And as y'all know, we're going to be playing in an NFL stadium, which we're kind of used to, right? Playing over at home at the Hard Rock. And I don't know about y'all, Cane fans, but South Florida football, you know, it's pretty relevant when it comes to high school football, and it's pretty relevant now when it comes to the Miami Hurricanes. But South Florida college football, come on now. I mean, Willie Taggart, there's been some guys back in the day that I can remember, but the most relevant thing about South Florida right now, guys, is the Barstool account on Twitter, right? And I think one of these things that they're trying to cause ruckus over right here, Cane fans that are tuned in, is they're talking a lot about, you know, selling out all their student tickets quickly right away, right? The head coach talking about packing this NFL Buccaneer Stadium environment, you know, opening that third level for South Florida fans, but not the Miami fans, right? And talking about packing this place to really make it feel like a home field advantage for South Florida and really causing some chaos for the University of Miami Hurricane football team. Doesn't that sound familiar to you guys, right? Because there was another Florida program earlier this year that had a lot of hype around them, that was talking about the environment, the chaos that the fans were going to create, all 90,000 plus were going to create, you know, third quarter ends, the Tom Petty Don't Back Down song plays. Well, guess what? I was in that stadium as well, and we drained the swamp. So you know what we're going to do this weekend, Cane fans? We're going to sink the ship. That's exactly what we're going to do tomorrow night in Raymond James Stadium. Is we're going to sink the ship. Now, how are we going to sink this ship, Cane fans, right? So let's dig a little bit deep down into this Miami-South Florida matchup. First and foremost, as y'all know, South Florida is an opponent that is coming off of a loss from Alabama, who had a little bit of a rough, you know, start at the beginning of the game. They were down a couple offensive linemen. For people that aren't aware of watching Alabama here lately, you know, they were pretty banged up on that offensive line. And as we know with our Miami football team, not only is our offensive line, you know, one of the strong suits going into this football season, as we've seen throughout 3 games so far, but we're a team that can maneuver guys around. And when guys do get banged up, we have the next guy that steps up right away, whether it's Markel Bell and others. But this could be a game now where we get, you know, our full health back at the offensive line, starting 5 with Jalen Rivers, Zach Carpenter, Francis, and others, right? So I think this is going to be a nice challenge for this starting 5 offensive line that really hasn't been together since week 1 to really get an idea of where they're at from a consistent standpoint As y'all know, a guy like Zach Carpenter has been so consistent all football season. Shout out to him and the Carpenter family. But going back to this game, right? Miami, with their wide receiver core, not just their core, but as a room, right? Just last football game against Ball State, we had 12 different guys catch a football, which is something that Miami hasn't done in quite a while. But when you look and deep dive into the stats and to the box score of both of these opponents, it's a really one-dimensional offense for South Florida. This is a team that really gets after it, running the football. Their quarterback and Byron Brown is really going to be a guy that could possibly put a little bit of different perspective of pressure on our defense that really maybe hasn't been seen like this before. Really more of a running quarterback that is going to, tuck it and run, drop his shoulder, and really get physical. He doesn't do too much in the air, and when he tries to, it's very inconsistent. He also leads the team in rushing, along with running back Kelly Joyner. So just goes to show you that this running back, is his think first is definitely going to be tucking and running the football compared to passing the ball, and just looking from a defensive standpoint of how we've been able to approach teams that try to run the ball. We have been very consistent at doing that. So I like what I see with Lance Guidry and this defense. So that's going to be something to look out for. But at the end of the day, these guys, whether it's Byron Brown or Kelly Joyner or some of the other backs that South Florida may have, because they do have a few, we are going to have to make sure we tackle, and especially in space. We got to make sure we get a lot of hats on the football like we've been doing. But I think just the tackling aspect really has to come in for this football game, just because the rushing priority for South Florida is really going to be key. We also, when you look at Miami's offense, right, we have been a team that, in my perspective, we have done whatever the defense has given us, right? You look at a team like Ball State last week, they were really key on stopping the run. They had 8 guys in the box pretty much every play in the first half. And you saw from a rushing attack, we didn't run many rushing plays, and they also didn't produce much rushing yards. But you saw a lot of big plays in the air. You go into the second half, no longer 8 guys in the box, and now you're able to get that balance of running, and you're seeing guys like Chris Johnson, Jordan Lyle, and A.J. Allen really produce like they've been doing the last couple games. This will be a big-time game for a guy like Damian Martinez, in my opinion. When you turn on the tape and you watch South Florida and how they scheme their defense, again, very one-dimensional, just like their offense. They play a lot of man-to-man press coverage, very tight on the line of scrimmage, spread out, to where if you can really have a consistent running game, especially up the middle, and open up those holes, and those tackles can really hold that edge, which Alabama wasn't able to do in the first half, which is a really strong suit for us, Miami, so far this year. I think we can really do some damage early, and it's going to really open up not only the running game, but the passing game. We're really going to be able to do what we want, pick our poison. And I really, truly feel like when it gets to the third quarter, it will be all Miami. We will start to see our second, third strings once again. But I do think a guy like Damian Martinez is a guy to watch out for this football game. And I also think wide receiver standpoint, again, I mentioned the defensive backs having that man-to-man press coverage, very tight on the line of scrimmage. This is going to be a very key game, for guys like Jacoby George, guys like Sam Brown Jr., and also I want to see a really big game for Elijah Arroyo as well. I think he's a huge mismatch for the defensive side of the football for USF. And again, he's a guy that's going to create mismatch problems with his measurables as well. And he's been able to produce so far this year, been fully healthy. We got to make sure we feed our guy Elijah Arroyo along with the rest of the tight ends, which we have had no problem doing. All in all, like I said before on the CanesWear Live Tuesday podcast this past week, if you haven't missed it, make sure you check it out, hit like and subscribe. But on that show, I predicted a 42-14 ball game for Miami over South Florida. I think we cover the spread, and I think we do our thing. And like I said, this will be a big game for the running game and the passing game. And I really do feel like this defense is going to continue to do what they do on the defensive side of the football when it comes to stopping the run. And I really like where we're going and the momentum that we're going to carry on to next week's opponent next Friday night against Virginia Tech, which we'll talk about next time, which I will also be at in the Hard Rock. So I can't wait for that one. As y'all know, the last time Miami, Virginia Tech played at night in the Hard Rock, man, it was one of the most memorable games you can think of in a very long time, which I was at as well, man. And so I hope to see a lot of fans there. But before we get back into football, there's also some other big news, right? Anytime you guys hear me talk Canes football or Canes recruiting, it is strictly football, right? But I don't want to shy away for some other attraction of things to look upon for any Miami Hurricane fans, especially the basketball fans out there, right? As y'all know, it's been quite a while since we've landed some top guys like Alani Walker. But this past class, Coach L and the rest of the staff was able to land freshman Jaleel Bethea, which was the highest recruiting program history out of Pennsylvania, ranked the third best shooting guard in the country, along with Austin Schwartz, another shooting guard from North Carolina, right? Well, they are on track now, ladies and gentlemen, Cane fans, viewers, listeners tuned in. It is September 20th, right? Friday, as I'm talking to you. There are two young gentlemen that are close to eyeing a decision for the next 3 to 4 years to play basketball. Two big-time names. Not only are they two big-time names, but they're also twins. Guys that were not only born in Miami, but, went to middle school in Miami, went to high school currently in Columbus High, which is the backyard of, obviously, University of Miami. Shout out to Mario Cristobal, Mirabal, and others. We have had a pipeline through that. But I'm talking about the Boozer twins. And yes, those guys right there. So I think these two gentlemen that we're going to be talking about, and Cameron and Caden Boozer out of Miami Columbus High School, like I said before, On3 has reported that they will be possibly nearing a decision soon. Cameron Boozer, who's a power forward, listed at about 6'9", one of the top guys in the country, if not the top guy in that position. You also have his brother in Caden Boozer, who's listed at 6'3", plays point guard. So like I mentioned before, last cycle, you landed two top guys in the shooting guard position. You got to be able to fill in those other guys in recruiting. And as y'all know, anyone that follows basketball recruiting, there have been some guys in our backyard for quite some time, the Brandon Knights, the Kenny Boytons, and others. We have never really put any effort into recruiting South Florida basketball, and I never understood why. And now when you have two gyms in your backyard and Cameron and Caden, this is where crunch time happens, and you really have to put on your Mario Cristobal loafers. And this is going to be a big-time decision coming soon. Like I mentioned before, they were born in Miami, went to Pinecrest Elementary School, go to Columbus High School. They are between Duke, Miami, and Florida. And like I mentioned before, you got to put on the Mario Cristobal shoes. And I have a very good feeling that I personally think that Mario, whatever weekend, whatever day it is going to take off the loafers, put on the Ultra Boost, and let Coach L hold him for the day. And he's going to get to stepping, and he's going to close on yet again another big-time recruit this cycle for the basketball program. So if we can get that done, make sure I'll give a shout out to Coach L, and y'all hear it here on the CanesWear Daily Podcast at FTSN with Brad Tejeda. I'm saying Cameron and Caden, I like us for those kids. So other than that, going back to Miami, Florida football program, right? The best Florida football program in the nation. One of the top football programs in college football right now. We have a guy in Cam Ward who, if you look at it, is currently the Heisman favorite. I don't want to get ahead of ourselves, Kings fans, but I want y'all to, at the same time, if you have the opportunity to go to a football game, I need you to get your butts in those seats. We got to support this team. We got to support this staff. And we got to show the nation that when Miami is starting to get at the top, we believe in this team and the city comes around them. And this will also help with recruiting, which I'm about to get into as well. But we got to make sure that our Heisman favorite candidate right now, and Cam Ward, continues to do the Cam Selly with the Hard Rock field as much as possible when we get the opportunity to do so, right? So make sure if y'all can get your butts in those seats, you get to Hard Rock in the next coming weeks. Now, getting to Miami recruiting, As y'all know, I love talking Miami football recruiting. We currently have 22 commits in the class. The last recent commit was Malachi Tony, which was already a commit, but he reclassified from the 2026 to the 2025 class. Future slot guy for the Miami football program, right? When you look at this current state, you got a great slot receiver, the best slot receiver in college football, in my opinion, and Xavier Restrepo. After he's done with this phenomenal season this year, he's going to be playing on Sundays, right? Then you look at that position group leading forward. You got Ray and you got Shamar Kirk. Other than that, guys like Nikar, I think is going to get pushed to the outside, playing more on the outside. I think the staff really likes him there. A guy like JoJo Trader might be able to go in both and play slot and on the outside. The only other guy that was playing in the slot was Robbie Washington, right? And Robbie Washington just transitioned to the cornerback position, which I think all in all will be a great spot for him and in the future, him going into hopefully playing on Sundays as well in the next 3 to 4 years. But when you look at that recruitment of Malachi Tony, this was a big one for the Miami Hurricanes just because of what I pointed out. You really want to be able to get that next guy that could really solidify himself and really be a difference maker on every single snap. And Malachi Tony can do just that. Not only do you have Malachi Tony, but you also still have Dalen Upshaw, right, from Alabama, who's been visiting Auburn the past couple weekends. I wouldn't worry too much about that, Hurricane fans. It's more of a distance thing. Just having a D1 SEC program, kind of very close to home from you. If you can be able to have the opportunity to watch some free football, some good football at that, why not do that, man? So let these kids enjoy their recruitment process. That's how I feel about it. But other than Dalen Upshaw and Malachi Tony, there are some other targets, like I said before, on our daily live podcast we do on Tuesdays. You have guys in Tyler Williams, Dallas Wilson, and even Joshua Moore, Miami Palmetto wide receiver that's currently committed to Florida. That is a flip candidate that I would not be surprised if later on in the year, or if not soon. As y'all know, with recruitment, there's never a timetable. Guys could pop at any moment, but I would watch Joshua Moore in particular. That's a name that I know Miami definitely likes. Kevin Beard definitely loves his tape, and when you turn on his tape, man, he could do just about everything and stands out in every way possible. Can go up and get the football, create separation, can absolutely, he's got that dog in him as well. And as we know, plays in Miami Palmetto, so he's not afraid of playing competition, right? Other than the wide receiver room, you do have some guys in the trenches as well in that defensive line room. As y'all know, we had one of the best defensive line recruitment classes in the nation this past year. The board this year is not as crazy and big, right? You missed on Iosi Epinesa, unfortunately, going to Iowa, home where his brother played as well. So no shock there. But you do have some other guys that are currently committed to other programs that I would watch out for. First one on the list is Derry Norris out of Spruce Creek, Florida. This is a guy that committed to Georgia Tech, and anyone that follows recruitment or, has a little bit distaste when, you see the U put down or you see the U hat thrown, anything like that. This is a young man in Derry Norris that kind of, threw some shade at Miami when he committed to Georgia Tech on his live recruitment. But again, doesn't matter about, a 10-second decision he's doing while he's enjoying his moment, right? I think the staff really loves this kid's tape, what he produces on the football field. And when you see him play on Fridays and Thursdays and Saturdays, he really gets the job done. And like I said before, the D-line recruitment board is very slim. And this is a guy that recently visited Miami. And I think this could be another flip candidate to watch out for. Derry Norris out of Spruce Creek. Another guy in Jarquez Carter right here in my backyard in Newberry, Florida. As y'all know, we have already got one commitment on that D-line out of Newberry High School and Micah Newton. And Jarquez Carter, who's his teammate, currently committed to Ohio State. This is a young man that, even though he committed to Ohio State, I think at the time he was one of many other recruits that really wanted to just figure out how many other big-time schools were really considering him and making him a priority, along with watching Miami these first couple weeks and seeing if they could really produce on the football field. I think he's got his answers for both, and I think this could be another guy to possibly watch out for to potentially get back in this class with his teammate and Micah Newton. So watch out for Jarquez Carter as well. And last but not least, you got Elijah Griffin out of Georgia. This is a young man that I mentioned, some other guys before in the show, but I don't think there is a bigger name, on the recruitment board as far as the physical stature, along with just turning on the tape and just a guy that could possibly start as a true freshman, especially at D-line. That's really hard to come by. But Elijah Griffin, could really be one of those guys. And he's a guy that Miami has made a priority from the beginning. And I think that will be a recruitment to watch till the very end. And I think Miami's in a very good spot. I think all in all with that recruitment, you really want to see if Elijah Griffin could finally get to Coral Gables and finally watch a football game this year. If he can do just that, I think Miami's in a very good place. But until that happens, I think we're still the second team to beat other than Georgia, obviously. And last but not least, as y'all know, we did have a linebacker decommit in the class, and Elijah Melendez. That was a recruitment that, from a staff point of view, from what I heard, wasn't caught off of guard. This was something that was kind of a mutual decision. I think the staff is really eyeing on a few other guys. The one to really watch out for is obviously Kellen Wiley out of Armwood. He made a debut a couple weeks ago in front of some guys very close to the football program. Got an offer immediately. And if you look at his size, he's 6'4", 200 plus pounds. You turn on the tape, he could run sideline to sideline. He could drop the shoulder. He could lay the wood. He could hit like a safety. And this is a guy that can really fit the mold of a Lance Guidry defense. So I think he could fit this defense like a glove for the future. So again, that is the last name that I'm going to throw out there as far as for the Canes football recruitment here currently. But yeah, man, hey, great first CanesWear Daily Podcast right here only at FTSN. Make sure you guys hit that like button, subscribe, always tune in. We got our CanesWear live podcast, like I said, every Tuesday at 8 Eastern, 7 Pacific time, right? And on top of that, like I mentioned before, we got South Florida tomorrow night. I'll be there around 1 o'clock in the afternoon. I hope to tailgate and have some fun with a lot of other fans there. Anyone driving currently at the moment, making some travel there, please be safe, get there safe, and we'll be throwing up the U in Raymond James Stadium. Like I said, drain the swamp, sink the ship. That's what we're going with this weekend. 42-14. That's CanesWear prediction for Brad Tejeda, man. I hope y'all had a good time right here, only on the CanesWear Daily Podcast. Make sure y'all hit that like and subscribe button, only on FTSN. We out.